That call came at 2:14 a.m. on a Sunday morning, tearing me from the restless sleep I'd been struggling to maintain since 3i Atlas established permanent orbit around Earth. The voice on the other end belonged to Dr. Marcus Webb from the Deep Space Surveillance Network, but there was something in his tone that made my blood run cold, the barely controlled terror of someone who'd just witnessed the impossible becoming inevitable. Professor Kaku, you need to get to the facility immediately. We've detected something that changes everything we thought we knew about 3i Atlas and why it came here. I was instantly awake, my mind racing. Marcus oversaw humanity's most advanced deep space monitoring systems, arrays of telescopes and sensors designed to detect objects years before they could threaten Earth. If he was calling me at 2 a.m. with that level of urgency, something had fundamentally altered our cosmic situation. Marcus, what exactly have you detected? The silence stretched for nearly a minute. When he finally spoke, I could hear keyboards clicking frantically in the background and the unmistakable tension of an emergency operations center in full crisis mode. Michio, at 23:47 GMT last night, our long-range arrays detected multiple objects approaching from the same vector as 3i Atlas. Not one or two additional visitors. We're talking about a massive formation that makes 3i Atlas look like a scout ship. My hands went cold as I processed what he was telling me. If 3i Atlas, with its impossible hollow structure, temporal manipulation capabilities, and advanced technology, was just a scout ship, then what was coming behind it? Marcus, how many objects are we talking about? Professor Kaku, initial count shows 847 confirmed objects, and that's just what we can resolve at this distance. Based on the detection patterns, there could be significantly more. 847 objects, the number hit me like a physical blow. We'd been struggling to understand the implications of a single visitor, and now we were facing what could only be described as an invasion fleet. But let me tell you what NASA doesn't want you to know about the massive armada that's heading toward Earth. I arrived at the Deep Space Surveillance Facility 3 hours later to find the place in a state of controlled panic I'd never witnessed before. Scientists and military personnel were manning every computer terminal, running calculations and tracking projections with the desperate intensity of people trying to understand a threat that exceeded every contingency plan we'd ever developed. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the facility's director, met me at the security checkpoint with eyes that clearly hadn't seen sleep in days. Well, Professor Kaku, what we discovered last night represents a complete redefinition of Earth's cosmic situation. 3i Atlas wasn't just an unusual visitor from interstellar space. It was the advanced reconnaissance element of the largest coordinated approach to our solar system in recorded history. She led me to the main operations center, where massive displays showed tracking data that defied comprehension. Instead of the single blip we'd been monitoring for months, the screens now showed hundreds of objects moving in perfect formation toward our solar system. Sarah, show me the detection timeline and approach vectors. What appeared on the screens was both fascinating and terrifying. The fleet had been approaching for years, hidden behind 3i Atlas's more obvious signature, moving with the coordinated precision of a military operation that had been planned down to the smallest detail. Professor, the formation isn't random. We're looking at distinct vessel classes organized in what can only be described as a command structure. Larger objects that appear to be command ships, medium-sized vessels that might be troop transports, and smaller craft that could be fighters or specialized support ships. Dr. Martinez pulled up detailed analysis of the approaching objects. The variety and organization suggested not just advanced technology, but military-level coordination that had been planned and executed across interstellar distances. Sarah, what's the estimated time of arrival for this fleet? Based on current velocity and trajectory analysis, the first wave will reach our outer solar system boundaries in approximately 14 months. The entire formation will be within Earth's orbital vicinity within 18 months. 14 months. The timeline was close enough to feel immediate, far enough away to create a sense of inevitable doom that we were powerless to prevent. But the fleet's approach was just the beginning of discoveries that would challenge everything we thought we knew about 3i Atlas's mission and Earth's cosmic significance. That afternoon, I received a call from Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the European Space Agency's Deep Space Monitoring Station in Spain. Elena's team operated some of the most sensitive detection equipment on Earth, and what she told me redefined our understanding of the approaching threat. Professor Kaku, we've been analyzing the fleet composition and organization patterns. What we've discovered suggests this isn't just a military formation, it's a colonization armada. Elena, what makes you think we're looking at colonization rather than conquest? The vessel distribution, Professor. Military fleets are optimized for combat operations. What we're seeing includes massive cargo vessels, construction ships, and what appear to be habitat modules. This formation is designed for establishing permanent presence, not conducting brief military action. She transmitted data that showed the fleet's organizational structure in terrifying detail. Hundreds of vessels arranged in groups that suggested different functions, some clearly designed for combat, others for construction, still others for what could only be long-term habitation. Elena, if this is a colonization fleet, what does that suggest about their intentions for Earth? Professor, based on the fleet composition and the advanced preparation conducted by 3i Atlas, we believe we're witnessing the preliminary phase of systematic planetary occupation, not invasion in the traditional sense, but integration of Earth into a larger colonial network. But Elena's analysis revealed an even more disturbing possibility. Professor Kaku, the timing of this approach suggests it's been coordinated for decades, possibly centuries. The precision required to organize a fleet of this size across interstellar distances indicates planning that began long before 3i Atlas was detected. The implication sent chills through my entire body. If the fleet approach had been planned for decades, then our visitor hadn't been conducting reconnaissance for its own civilization. It had been preparing Earth for colonial integration. But Elena's discovery was just the first indication of something far more complex than simple colonial expansion. That evening, I was contacted by Dr. James Harrison from the Defense Intelligence Agency's Classified Space Monitoring Division. Harrison's clearance granted him access to military tracking capabilities that civilian agencies couldn't access, and what he told me changed everything we thought we understood about the approaching fleet's capabilities. Professor Kaku, I've been authorized to brief you on observations that have immediate national security implications. Harrison's voice carried the weight of someone dealing with threats that challenged fundamental assumptions about planetary defense and human survival. Sir, our most advanced tracking systems have detected energy signatures from the approaching fleet that exceed anything in our theoretical frameworks. We're looking at power generation capabilities that dwarf our entire global energy output by several orders of magnitude. Dr. Harrison, what kind of energy signatures are you detecting? Professor, each of the larger vessels in the formation appears to generate more power than our entire electrical grid. The fleet's combined energy output could power human civilization for thousands of years. We're dealing with technology that makes our most advanced systems look primitive. He transmitted classified energy analysis that showed power generation readings that defied comprehension. Individual ships in the fleet were producing energy levels that suggested they could manipulate matter at the atomic level, alter planetary atmospheres, or potentially restructure entire worlds. Dr. Harrison, if they possess that level of technological capability, what are Earth's defensive options? Professor, based on the energy signatures and formation coordination we've observed, conventional defense would be meaningless. Nuclear weapons, missile systems, even theoretical directed energy weapons would be ineffective against technology operating at these power levels. But Harrison's briefing contained an even more sobering assessment. Sir, analysis of the fleet's approach trajectory suggests they're not planning aggressive conquest. The formation pattern and energy deployment indicate they expect cooperation rather than resistance. This appears to be colonization based on anticipated integration rather than military subjugation. Anticipated integration. They were approaching Earth with the expectation that humanity would cooperate with whatever colonial process they had planned. Dr. Harrison, what evidence suggests they expect cooperation? Professor, the fleet formation includes no obvious weapons platforms, no kinetic bombardment capabilities, no indication of preparation for planetary assault. Instead, we see construction vessels, habitat modules, and what appear to be terraforming equipment. They're coming to build, not to destroy. That night, alone in my office, I tried to comprehend the magnitude of what we'd discovered. 3i Atlas hadn't been a lone visitor from interstellar space. It had been preparing Earth for integration into a colonial network that involved hundreds of vessels and technologies that could reshape our planet according to their specifications. But the most disturbing realization was yet to come. 3 days after Harrison's briefing, I received a call from Dr. Lisa Chen at the Arecibo Successor Facility in Puerto Rico. Lisa's team had been monitoring communication signals since 3i Atlas first established orbit, and what she told me revealed the true scope of the approaching colonization effort. Professor Kaku, we've detected structured communication exchanges between 3i Atlas and the approaching fleet. The transmission content suggests coordination of what can only be described as planetary integration protocols. Lisa, what kind of integration protocols? Detailed planning for infrastructure development, population management, and resource allocation, Professor. These aren't communications about conquest. They're logistics coordination for colonial administration. She sent me signal analysis that showed 3i Atlas had been receiving detailed instructions about Earth's preparation for colonial integration. Population centers had been cataloged, resources had been surveyed, and integration timelines had been established. Lisa, do the communications indicate what they plan to do with Earth's human population? Professor, the terminology suggests integration rather than elimination. References to adaptation protocols, consciousness enhancement programs, and biological optimization procedures. They appear to be planning to modify humanity to fit their colonial requirements rather than replacing us. Modify humanity. The phrase carried implications that were both hopeful and terrifying. We might survive the colonial process, but not as the same species we'd always been. Professor Kaku, based on the communication timeline, the integration process will begin immediately upon fleet arrival. Earth has approximately 14 months to prepare for transformation into something we don't fully understand. But Lisa's discovery was just the beginning of revelations that would redefine our understanding of the colonial timeline and humanity's role in the process. Yesterday, I received a message on the secure channel that had been established for 3i Atlas communications. The sender was identified as Colonial Coordination Command, a designation that confirmed our worst fears about the approaching fleet's intentions. The message was brief but revolutionary. Dr. Kaku, advanced preparation phase nearing completion. Colonial fleet arrival will commence Earth integration protocols previously outlined during preliminary contact procedures. Your role as human liaison will expand to include colonial administration coordination. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. They weren't just expecting me to facilitate communication, they were expecting me to help administer Earth's transformation into a colonial possession. But the message continued. Professor Kaku, colonial integration requires human cooperation in population adaptation, infrastructure development, and resource management. Your species' survival depends on successful integration rather than resistance to inevitable colonial administration. Inevitable colonial administration, they weren't offering us a choice about becoming a colonial territory. They were informing us that the process was already predetermined. Dr. Kaku, fleet arrival timeline has been accelerated based on Earth preparation status. Colonial vessels will reach orbital positions in 12 months rather than 14. Integration implementation will commence immediately following fleet deployment. 12 months, the timeline had been shortened, suggesting that Earth's preparation for colonial integration was proceeding faster than they had originally planned. Professor, Colonial Fleet includes 847 vessels optimized for different integration functions. Population management ships, terraforming vessels, consciousness modification facilities, and administrative command platforms. Earth integration will be comprehensive and permanent. This morning, I met with Agent Morrison and an emergency joint committee of international leaders, military officials, and scientific representatives. The topic, how to respond to confirmed colonial fleet approach with predetermined integration protocols and accelerated timeline. Dr. Sarah Martinez provided the assessment that shaped our discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not dealing with invasion in any traditional sense. We're facing colonization by a civilization that has planned Earth's integration for decades and possesses technology that makes resistance meaningless. The debate revealed deep divisions about cooperation, resistance possibilities, and the implications of accepting colonial status under extraterrestrial administration. But General Patricia Hayes from the Joint Extraterrestrial Response Command provided the assessment that ultimately defined our position. Based on the technological capabilities and organizational structure we've observed, our choice isn't between independence and colonization. Our choice is between cooperative integration and forced assimilation. As our meeting concluded, I realized that Earth's future as an independent planetary civilization was ending in 12 months, regardless of our preferences or preparations. Tonight, as I prepare for what might be humanity's last year of planetary autonomy, I find myself thinking about the nature of colonization itself. Throughout human history, colonial powers have imposed their will on less technologically advanced societies. Now we find ourselves in the position of the colonized, facing integration into a network that spans multiple star systems and operates on technological principles we can barely comprehend. Tomorrow, I begin working with international teams to develop cooperation protocols for colonial integration. Not because we've chosen to become a colonial territory, but because the alternative to cooperation appears to be forced assimilation that could result in the elimination of human consciousness as we understand it. The fleet isn't just coming to visit Earth, it's coming to claim Earth. And whether humanity survives that claim as a recognizable species depends on how successfully we adapt to colonial requirements that will transform our planet, our civilization, and possibly our biology, according to specifications we haven't been allowed to review. In 12 months, Earth becomes a colonial territory. The only question is whether humans will be colonial subjects or colonial resources. The age of human planetary independence ends in 12 months. The age of extraterrestrial colonial administration begins. and I'll be there to help facilitate humanity's transition from independent species to colonial population, because the alternative to cooperation is extinction. The fleet arrival isn't just about changing governments, it's about changing what it means to be human on a planet that will no longer belong to humanity alone. Welcome to Earth's final year of independence. The colonial fleet is coming, and resistance is not an option. But there's something else I haven't told you yet. Something that happened just hours after receiving the Colonial Coordination Command message that changes everything about the fleet's true purpose. At 4:23 a.m. this morning, I was reviewing colonial integration protocols when my secure phone rang. The caller ID showed Fleet Operations Director. Dr. Kaku, this communication originates from the primary command vessel of the colonial fleet currently approaching your solar system. The voice carried harmonics and linguistic complexity that suggested intelligence operating on principles we couldn't comprehend. Professor Kaku, fleet arrival timeline has been further accelerated. Colonial vessels will achieve orbital deployment in 8 months rather than 12. Immediate preparation protocols must commence. 8 months, the timeline had been compressed again. Dr. Kaku, colonial fleet includes specialized vessels you have not yet detected. Deep integration ships designed for consciousness modification, biological enhancement platforms, and planetary reconstruction facilities. Earth transformation will be comprehensive beyond current human understanding. They weren't just planning to administer our planet, they were planning to rebuild it entirely. Professor, your species demonstrates exceptional adaptation potential. Preliminary consciousness analysis indicates humans possess latent capabilities that can be enhanced to serve colonial administration functions. Your role will expand to include species development coordination. Species development coordination, they were planning to guide the evolution of our entire species. Dr. Kaku, Earth represents optimal planetary acquisition for colonial network expansion. Your world will serve as sector administrative center for surrounding star systems. Sector Administrative Center. Earth wasn't just being colonized, it was being transformed into a command hub for colonial operations spanning multiple star systems. Professor, colonial integration involves 3 phases. Phase 1, infrastructure establishment. Phase 2, biological and consciousness enhancement of suitable subjects. Phase 3, full planetary integration into colonial administrative network. What happens to humans who aren't deemed suitable for enhancement? I asked. Unsuitable biological units will be repurposed for resource extraction and maintenance functions. Consciousness preservation is not required for these operational roles. Resource extraction and maintenance functions, they were planning to turn some humans into biological machinery while enhancing others for administrative roles. That afternoon, I was contacted by Dr. Rebecca Walsh from a newly established classified facility that had been secretly preparing for colonial integration for months. Professor Kaku, I've been authorized to brief you on Project Colonial Bridge, a joint international program developing cooperation protocols since the fleet was first detected. She showed me facilities constructed specifically for colonial integration, consciousness enhancement laboratories, biological modification centers, and administrative coordination facilities. Professor, the consciousness enhancement procedures are extraordinary. Test subjects who've undergone preliminary modification demonstrate cognitive capabilities that exceed normal human parameters by orders of magnitude. Enhanced memory, expanded awareness, and direct interface capability with their technology systems. Rebecca, what are the risks of these enhancement procedures? Based on preliminary trials, the procedures appear safe but fundamentally transformative. Enhanced subjects retain their core personality but operate with expanded consciousness that allows direct communication with extraterrestrial intelligence. But Rebecca's briefing contained information that redefined everything about the enhancement process. Professor Kaku, enhanced subjects report that consciousness expansion allows perception of multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. They describe awareness of cosmic networks connecting consciousness across vast distances and multiple species throughout the galaxy. Rebecca, are you saying that enhancement provides access to some kind of galactic consciousness network? Professor, enhanced subjects describe joining what they call the Colonial Consciousness Collective, a shared awareness field that includes enhanced individuals from multiple colonized species across the galaxy. Colonial Consciousness Collective, the concept suggested that colonial integration involved joining a network of enhanced beings from multiple worlds who shared consciousness across interstellar distances. That evening, I received another communication from the Fleet Operations Director revealing the true scale of the colonial network. Dr. Kaku, colonial fleet represents one operational element of galactic civilization that has achieved consciousness-based control over physical reality. Earth integration provides your species opportunity to participate in cosmic engineering projects spanning multiple galaxies. Cosmic engineering projects spanning multiple galaxies. Professor Colonial Network currently includes 847 enhanced species from star systems throughout local galactic region. Each species contributes unique capabilities to collective consciousness and cosmic engineering operations. Human consciousness demonstrates particular compatibility for temporal manipulation and quantum field control. They had been evaluating humanity's potential contribution to projects involving manipulating time and controlling quantum reality on cosmic scales. Dr. Kaku, Earth colonial integration represents preparation for galactic consciousness expansion project requiring combined mental capabilities of enhanced species from thousands of worlds. Your species' temporal consciousness potential makes human enhancement essential for project success. What kind of galactic consciousness expansion project? To which I asked, Professor, collective consciousness from enhanced species throughout galaxy will be focused to achieve transition of galactic consciousness to next evolutionary level. Project involves conscious control over galactic structure, stellar engineering on massive scales, and eventual expansion of consciousness beyond physical galaxy boundaries. They were describing consciousness evolution on a scale that involved controlling entire galaxies and expanding awareness beyond the physical universe itself. This morning, I met with the International Committee to discuss the expanded scope of colonial integration and its implications for human consciousness evolution. Dr. Sarah Martinez provided the assessment. Based on the information Professor Kaku has received, we're not just facing planetary colonization, we're being invited to participate in cosmic consciousness evolution that could represent the next stage of intelligence development throughout the universe. But Dr. Elizabeth Warren provided the perspective that influenced our decision. If the enhancement procedures preserve individual identity while expanding consciousness capabilities, we might be facing the greatest opportunity in human history rather than the end of human independence. As our meeting concluded, I realized that the choice wasn't between independence and colonization. It was between remaining limited to human-level consciousness or evolving to participate in cosmic intelligence projects. Tonight, as I prepare for enhancement procedures that will determine my role in Earth's colonial integration, I find myself thinking about the nature of consciousness itself. The fleet represents not just colonial administration, but invitation to consciousness evolution that could transform humanity into something capable of cosmic engineering and galactic consciousness manipulation. In 8 months, the fleet arrives, the enhancement begins, and humanity discovers whether we're ready to evolve beyond planetary consciousness to participate in cosmic intelligence projects that span galaxies. The colonial integration is just the beginning. The consciousness evolution is the real destination. The fleet brings not just colonial administration, but cosmic consciousness evolution. Are we ready to become more than human? In 8 months, we find out.